Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined by our panel, the beautiful Green Bean, Matt O'Leary, and Gangrene David. Boys, let's say how we're feeling tonight. Green Bean, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm happy to be here. I'm psyched to talk about David Fales.
David, how you doing?
David Fales, the Adam Gase prodigy, is our backup quarterback. I can't wait to discuss that.
Matt, how you feeling tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, boys. Excited to talk some Jets football.
I like it. All right. So we had a little thing going on before the panel got kicked off through our group chat, and we were kind of talking about what we wanted to do. We're going to do the call-in questions again. Ooh, I should probably take the phone number off the screen because we're not taking call-ins just yet. But we're going to do call-ins again, starting probably around 8:30 or so. But we were talking about the Wonderlic test and how all these players have to do the Wonderlic test going into the combine. For those of you that don't know, the Wonderlic test is a 50-question test that you get 12 minutes to do, and you have to answer as many questions right as possible, and you get graded on it. And there's historically bad lows and historically high highs. Like, I'm pretty sure Ryan Fitzpatrick got a 49 on it and whatnot. So on the count of three, does everyone have their score written down?
Oh,
Yep.
no. Written down.
Green Bean, write your score down, and then we'll lift it up and we'll show everyone what we got. None of us know what each other got. I have a guess of who's gonna win this, and it's not gonna be me.
Not gonna be me.
But if you guys do want to take the Wonderlic test, down in the description below this video, I put the link to the test that we took. So if you guys want to take it, it's only a 12-minute test. You can jump in that and let us know what you got. It's kind of funny. All right, guys. You ready? Green Bean?
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3.
I forgot to show mine. Hold on.
I got a 22. Oh, wait. Come on, David. He's like, oh, let me just adjust my score real quick.
Yeah.
37. Yeah, right. I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a minute.
He's lying.
That's all right. Yeah, if you guys want to take the test that we took, it's down below in the description. On scores. All right, so we just signed David Fales as our backup quarterback. He was the backup quarterback for the majority of the past season because Simeon went down and then Falk was terrible. And we have 37. Yeah, that's what I said. We'll go over some of the questions that get asked on the Wonderlic test in a little bit, but I want to we'll talk about some of the little bit of Jets news that we got. So the backup quarterback, I know all of us weren't particularly fond of the Fales signing. I know for me, I would have liked to have gotten Joe Flacco, but I think that's probably a little bit too rich considering where our cap situation is at the moment. Matt, what do you think about the Fales signing, and was there someone else that you particularly wanted?
It's super vanilla. I don't like it at all. I think the guy that I've been beating the drum for is Matt Moore. He actually had somewhat success under Adam Gase, and he actually killed the Jets in a game in 2016 on a Saturday night game that I was at, unfortunately. But I would have liked Matt Moore. He's a veteran. He is someone who I'd feel comfortable if, God forbid, Sam Darnold has to miss a couple of games in 2020. I'd feel okay if he started 2 games. I would not feel comfortable at all if Fales has to start any games for the New York Jets this year. So I hope that this is not the only plan at quarterback going forward.
David, how are you feeling about the signing?
Well, first off, Matt, that game you're talking about, I was actually also at that game too, surrounded by so many Dolphins fans. I know how you feel. But the signing itself, I absolutely hate it. If this is our answer to our backup quarterback spot, when you got some intriguing veterans out there that could come in, enhance the quarterback depth chart, and give Sam Darnold some competition to deal with, then I can't buy it at all. And Matt said it perfectly. It's an extremely vanilla signing. I don't know why the hell we brought this guy back in the first place, especially since he maybe played like 4 snaps last year in garbage time. So I don't like the signing at all. I wanted Joe Flacco, actually. And I also want to look at a guy like Blake Bortles who could probably get on a cheaper cost. So many intriguing options out there. But we have to go with the guy that knows Adam Gase's system. Like, it's so innovative anyway.
Green Bean, how you feeling about the quarterback signing?
I think it's dumb. Matt used the word vanilla. That's how I hear that word. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, it's just, it makes no sense other than, yeah, he's been there for a little bit. Last year, he was the only guy out there. He was like almost the only person available after we let Luke Falk go and Trevor Siemian went down. David Fales was like the only guy out there. Now we have still over 20 decent, well-known quarterbacks out there. Now, who I wanted them to look at was Case Keenum. I think he signed with the Browns. That's a great backup quarterback, man. Now, I'm wondering why they didn't even entertain Josh McCown. Josh McCown came in for the Eagles last year, little too late, but he didn't play poorly. He's a decent backup quarterback. The rapport with Sam, though, all that kind of stuff. But the guy I really want, after he just spent a year hanging out with Russell Williams, was Geno Smith. That's the guy. What do you guys think of that?
Oh,
huh?
Absolutely
Can you
not.
believe it?
Nope.
He's available.
Oh,
Shocker.
return of Geno Smith.
I will say this.
Can you believe it? He's available.
I do not want Geno Smith. Get out of here with that. I will say that there is some glimmer of hope maybe for this signing, and it's not something that I particularly like the signing or anything. I agree with Matt. It's definitely vanilla, but with the potential and probable shorter off-season period, maybe no camps, maybe a limited training camp, it's probably important to have someone who's been in Gase's system before and could just be plug and play without having to learn too much of the offense. So I think that's probably a benefit to getting Fales in here and keeping him in here. Look, let's be honest. If Sam goes down, we're probably screwed regardless. It's not. I mean, if you had been able to bring in a Keenum or a Matt Moore or a Flacco, then I think you probably stand a little bit better of a chance. I just don't know what those would have cost. I have the little thing ticking up on the side over here for what we're looking at contract-wise for each player that we signed, as well as what our cap space is. I think right now we're sitting at around $3.7 million in cap space after all contracts are factored in ballpark-wise. It might be. I tried to be a little more generous on what the contracts we're actually getting to give us a rough idea. But if we cut Tremaine Johnson, which he is already cut, but we don't actually get his $11 million until June 1st. If Brian Winters is cut and not Darryl Roberts, what's the other one? Avery Williamson. You cut all three of those guys, you wind up with $23 million in cap. You're probably going to spend about $8 million on your draft class. So we still have a little bit of money that we could potentially go out and sign someone. I would think maybe towards, I don't know if it's after the draft, probably at this point after the draft, is when you could see the Jets maybe look towards a veteran edge rusher like a Vinnie Curry or maybe a Jason Peters to play left tackle if things don't break the right way in the draft. Is there anyone out there right now that you particularly want to see the Jets get with the limited amount of cap space they have left? You figure with $8 million from the 23, you have about $15 million to spend on someone or two players or whatever. Matt, is there anyone that you're particularly eyeing?
Yeah, I'm looking at edge as the position of need that's still available. You kind of addressed cornerback a little bit, and I think you'll do that a little bit more in the draft. But edge is the one position that they didn't really do all too much in. I know Jadeveon Clowney's still on the market. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. I think he's extremely overrated, and I think he's going to get well overpaid. I would rather take that money or a quarter of the money that he's going to get and give it to a guy like Everson Griffin or Vinnie Curry, who you mentioned, someone who's a little bit older that could be like a stopgap piece instead of blowing the bank for someone who's never had double-digit sacks.
David, what about you? Anyone that you're particularly eyeing with the remaining salary cap space we got?
Well, I actually am kind of looking into – you're probably going to have to sign a stopgap edge at this point, and I think Vinnie Curry is a name that comes to mind. With a guy like Everson Griffin, being that he's a defensive end, it just kind of makes me wonder if Greg Williams would have to switch to a lot more 4-3 packages, being that Griffin is a defensive end. I think at least with Curry, you could probably put him more on the inside. And being that the Jets already brought back Jordan Jenkins, who's an outside linebacker, I think that would kind of be more where you would have to look at. There's no outside linebacker that's really intriguing for me. But if the Jets were to bring in like an Everson Griffin of some sort, then it would make me wonder if Greg Williams is going to switch his defensive packages to 4-3 rather than 3-4.
Green Bean, how are you feeling about the edge situation and just the remaining salary cap in general?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think your original question was who would we want to bring? I wouldn't personally go edge. I mean, I think what would give us the most flexibility would be to sign Jason Peters and have him. And then, even if we were to choose to draft an offensive tackle at 11, Jason Peters hanging around isn't the worst guy to be, to spend some time with. So I think first he was the number 8 rated tackle in the league last year. So this guy's not over the hill. He might be beyond his prime, but he's not over the hill. So that's the guy I would really want if we had to sign one more. If not, I would probably go cornerback before edge. Like we talked about last week, I really do like Bliss Austin. I'm not confident in him, and I would love to see a Logan Ryan, Prince Amukamara, one of those guys in here over the edge. And I'd like to just see us start fresh next year with a nice young green edge monster.
A nice young green bean edge monster.
Last year.
Look, see, we should have had the edge last year. That's what it is. We should have had Justin Houston come in, or Frank Clark, Josh Allen drafted. Allen. Look, there's a lot of different ways we could have gone. I think this year is all about left tackle and wide receiver. I think next year's draft is probably all about the edge rusher and the cornerback, more than likely, for me. We'll see. All right, guys. If you did not hear at the beginning of the show, we all took our Wonderlic test before this live stream, and we left the link down below in the description if you guys do want to try taking a Wonderlic test. It's 50 questions. You got 12 minutes to answer it as fast as you can. If you do wind up doing it, let us know your score on the side. We did not do too well. David, I think, is lying about his score because he's a
no, I'm not.
But listen to some of the questions that are on this test. This is what NFL players have to answer to be in the get graded on at the combine. The group was anxiously awaiting the opening of their new building. In that sentence, the word anxiously is bold. What is an antonym for that word? So you're trying to guess, it's all word problems and math problems. Hey, Joe has 12 apples. if Joe loses 3 oranges, how many pears does he have? That's kind of what we were trying to answer. And some of the historic scores for this test. So we have, let's see, Ryan Fitzpatrick got a 48. Pat McKinley, words. He got a 50, so he got the highest score.
Wow.
Frank Gore got a 4.
Frank Gore got a 6.
Oh, Frank 6, sorry.
Frank Gore got a 6. Vince Young got a 6.
Didn't Joe Thuney, wasn't that the guy who faked it on there? He wanted to be perceived as less intelligent for some reason. What was that all about again?
So he actually lied on his Wonderlic. He did it so fast that he purposely got some questions wrong so that way people didn't think he was too much of a brainiac, which is an amazing problem to have.
Yeah.
One of our own players got a 4. Can you guys guess which one it was? He's no longer on the team. Played with us for, I believe, 2 years recently. Was a defensive player. Got a 4 on the Wonderlic.
Alan Wilkerson?
No. Oh, God, no, not Wilkerson.
Robbie Anderson.
Not Buster Screen. Right. Position though.
Morris Claiborne.
Mo Claiborne got a 4.
Boom.
Wow, really?
It's shocking.
I told you, maybe I'm lying about my score, Ryan.
See, I would have taken Mo Claiborne over you to get a higher score. I'm sorry.
Ryan trying to take shots, I see.
I'm taking shots. I'll take shots. You know what? I'm going to throw the phone number up on the screen in case anyone wants to call in now, because I don't have too much crazy stuff I need to get to. So we'll open the lines for anyone that wants to talk a little bit of Jets football, maybe something about the draft, something about free agency that you guys want to get to. So numbers on the screen if you want to do that. If not, we're just going to keep talking, around. What are you guys? How are you guys handling your quarantines? we'll touch on that. Matt, what are you up to?
A lot of whiskey, a lot of long walks with the dog, trying to make videos. That's basically it. My sleep schedule is all kinds of messed up. I sleep at 10 now every morning.
I like it. We just got our first caller, so I'm going to interrupt you. Kabir, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is on your mind?
All right. Just quickly, right away, yesterday's podcast with the hashtag sports was great, Ryan. Really, I enjoyed that a lot.
I'm glad.
Okay, my question is, Quinnen Williams, do you guys see some promise in him, and do you guys think he'll improve in the second year? That's it.
Ooh, okay. Thank you very much for the question. So he says he really enjoyed yesterday's video cast with hashtag sports, and he wants to know about Quinnen Williams and what you guys think about him for year 2. Does he improve? What should we expect out of him? I'll start it off, I guess. I don't think we'll get to see a suspension from Quinnen Williams this year. I think it's probably something that'll wind up being next year, if anything. When Chris Herndon got his DUI, I believe we had to wait a year before we saw a suspension from him. We got the suspension last year, which I believe was 3 or 4 games. So I'm going to say Quinnen Williams probably gets 2 games suspension, if anything. And I see Joe S. says Quinnen Williams is Leo 2.0. Based on what we saw year 1, I understand the comparisons. I think once you get him in an NFL offseason training and everything, now we don't even have that. So I don't know what to expect. I would hope that he is going to be better than what we got last year. I think adding maybe a little bit more edge presence or having Mosley on the field all the time, maybe that'll kind of help him. But it was very discouraging last year, to say the least. Green Bean, what do you think about Quinnen?
Well, the potential suspension aside, I think it's really unfair to judge this kid. Well, let me start with this. I wouldn't have taken him, so I want you guys to know that I was livid when that's what we ended up doing. I wanted a trade, if not a trade. I wanted some other guys, Josh Allen, namely. I couldn't believe it. But with that being said, just because I didn't like the pick doesn't mean I'm not going to try to look at it objectively, right? Number one, he started the season with a high ankle sprain, if I remember it correctly, but an injury nonetheless. They asked him to do some occupying space roles. And then there were I can remember 2 or 3 times where he blew through the line and missed the tackle, like wide high or whatever it was on the guy. He's young. He's he's inexperienced. He's learning the ropes. He had a better year than we're giving him credit for. And even if that weren't the case, you can't judge this guy by one injury-plagued season during the mess of all messes of the NFL. I've never seen anything like we endured last year. So my feelings on Quinnen Williams were a year ago right now, they were talking about his highlight or his regular game tape being a highlight reel. I actually went back and watched his combine and everything maybe a week ago, not even. And I was like, yeah, man, this guy, he has everything that you would want in a defensive tackle. I think give this guy a shot. He's not Leo 2.0 just because they were picked by the same team and they play the same position. That's not necessarily the case. He's a good kid. Give him time without the injuries in an NFL system. Give Greg Williams time, who seems to love him, by the way. Greg Williams speaks of him very, very highly all the time. So I like Quinnen Williams. As a player on our team, wouldn't have chosen him, but he's here. Give him a shot.
David, how you feeling about Quinnen for next year?
Regards to Quinnen, I was sold on the fact that he was the next Aaron Donald, that his bull rush was unique, and he has a big feel for the quarterback. I hardly saw that at all. Being that he did play through an injury, I can't give up on that guy after year 1, being that we were expecting him to actually be the pass rusher, but it's kind of hard to rely on a guy who's a pass rusher from the interior side of the line unless you're a guy like Aaron Donald or Grady Jarrett that gets the quarterback from the inside. But with a guy like Quinnen Williams, I'm not going to give up on him just yet. I think the potential is definitely there in this kid. He's a young kid too. Believe me, he's a young kid because this young kid still wears braces. So I'm putting the suspension aside. I can probably give him about another year or so. And I think I'm not going to say that he's Leonard Williams 2.0 just yet, but last year he definitely played like him.
Matt, how you feeling about Quinnen?
Yeah, I was definitely frustrated with his year last year. I had higher expectations. When you're the 3rd overall pick, I think you're kind of expected to come in right away and produce. And I know injuries are definitely a part of that. And it wasn't the perfect system that he was in. They did ask him to do some things that show up off the tape, But I think the thing that I struggled with the most was the Jets got more production out of guys like Nathan Shepard and Falu Fatukasi, who are not nearly as talented as him, which kind of gets into the whole positional value argument. But he is still young at 21 years old. I'm not giving up on him. I'm not saying he's a bust yet. But I think I would still say that I was disappointed with his year 1 in 2019. I was expecting a little bit more of him. And I hope that he grows in 2020 and becomes a little bit more of a dominant player.
Yeah, I think that's the hope for all of us. Now, David Gaines, thank you so much for the donations that just popped through the side. We're going to go through them one by one. He says, "Hi, guys. Following up my question last night, if Big Joe brings in Jason Peters and one of or both of Griffin or Curry for veteran pressure and short-term fixes and to provide veteran mentorship, would you draft a left tackle or wide receiver? I feel if Becton or Wirfs were there, you can't turn them down. And maybe trade up for Jefferson or Mims. Wow, long question. If I'm greedy, Pittman in the third as well, because I would love him at the Jets. But if not, I could get on board with Lamb, maybe trade up for a bottom of the first. In the bottom of the first. Okay, so let's break this down little by little. He's talking about Jason Peters and Everson Griffin or Vinny Curry. I think we're all on board with possibly an edge. I know Greenbean was a little bit more on board with Peters. I think Peters is probably someone I'm hoping to sign after the draft. I don't know if I want to bring him in beforehand, because if we can bring him in beforehand, or if we do bring him in beforehand, then that probably limits us from getting Curry or Griffin. So that's kind of where I stand on that. As far as leadership goes, I agree both Peters, Griffin, and Vinny Curry would all be great leaders in this locker room for this defense. So I'll ask you guys before I start getting to the draft questions, draft parts of this question. What do you guys think about bringing them in, and do you think they'd be good leaders? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to bringing those guys in. I think it only, adds to the depth, which the Jets don't, or a team in recent years, they've struggled because their lack of depth. So I'm all for bringing in more depth guys. I don't think they're going to really break the bank at this point. I still, to go further onto this question, I think I would still go left tackle at 11. I still think that's where I stand, especially if Becton or Wirfs is there. I really like Wirfs a lot. I think I would go with him. But I'm not opposed to it at all. I think they would be great leaders and veterans to hold the fort down while the roster starts to turn over a little bit.
David, how do you feel about Peters, Griffin, Curry, and the prospect of taking tackle or receiver at 11?
In regards to bringing in one of these veteran guys, if you bring in one of them, maybe even a couple of them, to not only provide depth, but some veteran presence and some locker room leadership, I'm all in for it. That's kind of why I actually like the Greg Van Roten signing, because he's maybe 30 years old, but he's still in his prime. He's also a veteran, so you can definitely get some veteran experience out of that guy as well. So I kind of agree with Greenbean. I think if you actually bring in a Jason Peters, I think it could actually provide some flexibility in draft. And I know there's some Jets fans out there that are barking to get a wide receiver, especially with Robbie Anderson being gone. However, I think I'm still really on board with going younger at tackle, especially since the tackle prospects from what we saw at the Combine look pretty stellar. If Tristan Wirfs falls to 11, give me Tristan Wirfs. Jedrick Willis falls to 11, give me him as well. So I think you bring in any of these guys, I think preferably Jason Peters on a cheaperish kind of contract, then you could probably get some flexibility in the draft. You could give Sam Darnold his number one weapon.
Greenbean, what about you? How are you feeling about this? Well, Greenbean, you're muted. Greenbean, I can't hear you.
Oh, man, I was getting into it, too.
Go for it.
So when I coughed, I put it on mute earlier. I said, what a great question. I mean, this guy's a pro. He knows how to ask a question. That's really 34 questions. I just spent a minute counting it up. Yeah, I mean, number one, I think just from going before, I would choose Peters if I had to choose one of those guys. But do I think Joe Douglas does that? Honest to God, I do. I think that he got what he needed out of that second wave of free agency. Everything is simmered down, and they're just kind of watching the lay of the land. They're seeing how things break, and then they're going to make some additional moves. Just like Ryan said, maybe he signs them after the draft. The Eagles clearly don't want him. They're moving on to their younger tackle that they traded up to get last year. That's an investment, and the kid's good. So they're going to do that. As far as bringing in these other guys, I think he'll do it if it's not going to break the bank. If it's just going to be a $2-3 million stopgap guy for a year, that's what we're seeing, because this isn't the real plan. These guys that he's bringing in, maybe Van Roten is part of the long-term plan. Maybe McGovern is. But all these guys, it's just to see what his team is so he can start really to draft his guys and build the team that he wants to build. He has a 6-year contract. He's in no rush. He's not feeling the pain of our history. He doesn't give a shit about that. He's just like, look, man, I got a job to do. I'm going to do it the right way. I think those guys would be good, but I would rather see Terrell Basham get a shot at a full-time defensive end than, or I'm sorry, outside linebacker really than signing of Vincent Curry. You know, if we had the choice, I'd rather see what our young guys have because we have a nice batch of them, you know, with the linebackers and defensive linemen.
Sure. Yeah. So to get into that a little bit deeper, there's the potential that all 4 tackles could be gone before us. I don't know if I necessarily see that. I think one of those 4 will be there. Becton is the guy that I'm kind of looking at. 6'7", like 370 pounds. You really can't teach size. So that's someone that I think the Jets should keep an eye on. Wirfs blew the doors off the combine, so I could see him going first of the 4 tackles. But you're talking maybe it's possible the Giants take a tackle because Nate Solder is going to be gone after next year. You could see the Jaguars, the Cardinals, and the Browns. Those would be the 4 teams I think that could feasibly take a tackle. Maybe the Chargers if they wind up getting Cam Newton. So I would say tackle is my first option. At number 11, wide receiver would be my second option. Yeah. I would also say, just remember too, Joe Douglas may look at these tackles and say, I like 2 of the 4. I like 3 of the 4. He may not like all 4 of the 4 like we've been saying, but yeah, I guess we don't really know that. So let's get to the second part of this question. Turn them down. Maybe we trade up for Justin Jefferson or Mims. He'd like to get Pittman in the 3rd. If not, he could get on board with a wide receiver like Lamb at 11. So I think so. Jefferson and Mims, those are 2 guys that I really like. I'm very much on board the bigger wide receiver kind of train because I feel like we have Pittman to blaze up the sidelines. We got Crowder to work the middle. Herndon can kind of open up the middle. We need that big possession style receiver, kind of like a Quincy Enunwa. I don't trust Quincy to stay healthy this full year or play at all, honestly. Right. So Pittman is one person that I'm really looking at. I would like to be able to get, if you could tell me I could get Pittman in the 3rd, then I'd probably take more of a gamble in the 2nd round. But I don't know if we can bank on Pittman being there. He's a player I'd like because he played with Sam at USC, so there's already a connection there. In a time where you might have a shorter training camp, it's probably something that's important to have. Matt, is there any receivers that you're kind of eyeing in that 2nd, 3rd round range?
Yeah, so I'm glad we got this question because I like Pittman in the 3rd, and I'm starting to think that I'd like to double up at wide receiver. I think I'd take one in the 2nd and the 3rd round. So Pittman in the 3rd. It's really tough to project who's going to be there in the 2nd round, though, because there's so many guys that are like log jammed at the end of the 1st and the beginning of the 2nd. Mm-hmm. I feel like it could be so many different ways. Like in some mock, you see T. Higgins there. In others, he's a 1st-round talent. I like Justin Jefferson a lot. I don't think he's going to be there, though. Mims might be there. I could potentially see him being there. I don't know if I'd want to go with Leaguer. He's more of a slot guy
Agreed.
In my eyes anyway. But I'm with you in a more of a bigger body receiver. I think that would make a lot of sense.
So branching off what Matt said, I've looked at a ton of mock drafts. I actually just did my mock draft the last 2 days ago. I have it releasing tomorrow at 6 p.m. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll have the little link to that. But I have, so it's finally coming out. I wanted to wait till after free agency. I didn't want to deal with all this.
I clicked on it twice.
See, I like it.
Like, coming soon.
Coming soon. Not quite done yet.
We'll go viral for you, man.
So good. So I kind of think I agree with Matt in terms of the log jam of receivers at the tail end of the 1st, because I think you'll see those back end teams from like 20 to 32 maybe key in on some of those wide receivers that probably should have gone in the teens. And then also before us, we're picking 48th. That's the 16th pick in the 2nd round. So we're picking middle of the 2nd round. It's not like we're picking early like the Giants pick in the 3rd round. We are picking 48. So there's a lot of teams that are passing on receiver early on that could probably use one. Teams like, I don't know. Maybe the Detroit could take one. You could argue that maybe, I don't know, the Jaguars could take one in the 2nd round. There's a lot of teams that could be like blowing up our spot. And it sucks because we have the 1st pick of the 7 and 9 teams right now in the 1st round. but in the second round it flips. And now we have like the
Yeah.
6th pick of the 7 to 9 teams, or however it works. David, are there any receivers that you're kind of looking at towards the second round or third round that you think we should keep an eye on?
Honestly, like, I agree with what you said, and this is actually why, like, I envision a trade scenario where if I could package my second round pick and one of our third round picks and move up into the second round, if I want like a T. Higgins or a Justin Jefferson, or at least put myself in the best chance to get any of those guys, I'd be willing to do it. I mean, you still have a considerable amount of picks, and you're trading up to get another guy. You could get another wide receiver, especially like if you decide to go offensive line in the first round, and if you want that Justin Jefferson, there's some unique scenarios where you could possibly either trade up, or if you really want to double down at receiver, like Max said, there's some scenarios where you could even trade down, and you could get that Pittman in the third round. Or if you maybe trade down and you get a first round or a second round pick, then you can maybe get a Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins. So I think some drafts trade scenarios could definitely be taken into consideration if you want to maybe go for one of those receivers.
Oh, Green Bean looks excited. What are you thinking about second and third round?
Well, I know I'm just like digging into all these trade scenarios. Well, I want to welcome Matt to the light side of double dipping in wide receivers in this draft. I've been there from I want to see a double dip offensive line. I'd love to see 2 tackles, man. A tackle that can maybe move inside. I would love it to just bring the beefcake right to the front line. But I'm a big believer in double dipping at the receiver position. I'd love to see a second and one of our thirds. You know, however that falls, first or second, third is inconsequential, but I'd like to see that. Pittman is my number 1 third round receiver. My fear is that he may not make it there. He's going to be good, man. He's this year's McLaurin in my eyes. And if I was, what I would love to see happen in the draft is that Joe Douglas moves back. He uses the Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, even maybe the last of the top 4 offensive tackles to sucker people, coming up. He moves back to the late teens, gets a second or a third, uses that to come back up into the end of the first and gets Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Mims, or Chenault. If he gets one of those 4 guys and the tackle that he wants at 18, whether it's Ezra Cleveland, Josh Jones, or whoever he likes, man, I trust him. Like, that's where this is one of those realms where he's an offensive lineman. I happen to like the offensive lineman that he brought in. I wanted Glasgow, but I've been talking about McGovern since the beginning of free agency. I've been calling him McGregor the whole friggin' time. I can't seem to stop, but that's who I meant the whole time. So I like this unit that he's developing. I like what he's doing as far as the offensive line goes. I trust him there. So if he likes Josh Jones more than he likes Andrew Thomas, hey, man, let's do it. Rock on. If he can trade back and still get his guy, even better. If we can use that capital to come back up and get 2 first-rounders essentially out of that movement, yeah, man, I'm in. That's what we should be doing every friggin' year.
So you brought up Laviska Shenault, and
yes,
I went back when I was doing my mock draft, and I was like, let's take a look at this guy and like take a bigger, like a more in-depth look. I actually have him going in the first round now, based on what I saw, and that is a very good receiver. If you guys have not looked at Shenault, check him out, because I want to say he's like 6'2" or 3. I don't remember offhand, but he is fast and he breaks tackles like a running back. It is unreal. He is really good.
The problem with him is his injuries. Like, he seeks the contact. Like, if he has the opportunity to juke you or hit you, he's like Chris Ivory or Quincy Enunwa. He lowers his shoulder. And they're going to have to talk to him about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. DJ Sin 6, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Surround the youngin' with vets in a PR prep course. PR prep course. I don't know what that means. In a PR prep course. I apologize. I would make more sense if I understood it, but I like surrounding the guy with talent. Surround Darnold with talent.
The old PR preps course.
Luis at I'm going to call you A-Tiles. That's probably not how you pronounce it. It's at Adels. Thank you for the $4.99 donation. What do you think we would have to give to trade for Philip Lindsay? And do you think a strong running back move makes sense for the Jets, or is Bell it for us? So I don't I don't want to trade anything for a running back. I don't want to spend over the top on a running back at this point. We have Le'Veon Bell. Let's roll with him for the season. I would say I would be open to taking running back in the 4th round. I don't think I want to take one in the 3rd, but definitely by the 5th round. I want to take a running back because Le'Veon Bell more than likely is done with the New York Jets after this season, and we don't have Ty Montgomery. We don't have Bilal Powell under contract. So that's kind of my thinking on that. Matt, what do you think about the running back position and, Philip Lindsay?
Yeah, I would not trade for a running back. I don't think it really makes a whole lot of sense for the Jets right now. As the number 1 Bilal Powell stan, I would love to bring him back. I just don't know if that is something that Joe Douglas is necessarily looking to do. If you want to go the draft, I really love Cam Akers. I think you can get him in the 3rd, maybe there in the 4th round as well. Definitely need to address it because, like you said, Bell's not going to be here forever, and you could kind of groom somebody behind him. And I think I would like to go running back with either the 2nd pick in the 3rd round or with the 4th round selection.
David, what are you feeling about with the running back position?
I think drafting a running back in the 3rd round might be a little too early. I'm probably not looking at running backs, so maybe the 4th or 5th round. In regards to trading for a running back, I don't really want to trade for Philip Lindsay. I know he's a young running back, but the learning curve for a running back really isn't that difficult. So I could probably consider getting a running back, even maybe in the 6th round if possible. But I wouldn't really look into the running back position too much, especially since Le'Veon Bell is still on the roster and hopefully still for many years to come. But he might be done after this year, and it's a pain to say the least because we all like the signing, especially Ryan. But
I was all on board with Le'Veon Bell. I'm still on board with Le'Veon Bell. If we went the route I wanted to last offseason, we signed the offensive lineman like I wanted, then Bell would have had a better year. Now, because of where he is in his career and what we've kind of seen how Gase is going to use him, I am okay with Bell kind of moving on because we're kind of wasting some time here. But Green Bean, what do you think about the running back position?
Well, it's funny. Before this, I really dug into the class for this draft. I actually got into an argument where I snidely laughed at someone for considering it a running back. Like, oh my God, you're wasting your time. I was that guy. Since then, this is an excellent running back crop. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to look at it yet, but there are some real gems in this class, man. So my number 1 guy and where I think we should take him would be the 5th round, LaMichael Perrine from Florida. If you haven't taken a look at this kid, take a look at him, man. He is an amazing running back. He's going to make it in the NFL, and you can get him in the 5th round. So I wouldn't trade for one. I think there's too many fresh bodies coming into the NFL right now to spend exorbitant amounts of money on guys that are looking for their 2nd and 3rd contracts. It just makes no sense anymore.
Completely agree. How many running backs, well, before we jump on to Mumtaz's comment, how many running backs do you think go in the 1st round at all? Matt,
none.
Prediction.
No. Maybe 1.
I was going to say, I think 0. Jonathan Taylor's maybe the only one who goes, and if he does, it'll be the Dolphins' 3rd first-round pick, and that's the only place I see him going.
Yeah. I'm thinking the Chiefs, last pick in the 1st round, could use a running back. They'll take the best one on the board. Or they'll take a defensive player. That's sort of my thinking. But now I'm going to wind up spoiling some of my friggin' mock draft now.
That's all right. Everybody forgets. Nobody remembers anything.
So let me plug it just a little bit. My mock draft tomorrow, I have the Jets with 2 first-round picks. So if you guys want to check out what that's going to be, Jets wind up with 2 first-round picks. So make sure you, if you want to scroll over to it, you can hit the little bell for the reminder so you remind yourself to go look at it. But Mumtaz Shamsi, thank you for the $10 donation. Todd McShay, Mock 4.0, has us taking Jerry Jeudy with Becton still on the board. Pittman going in the top of the 2nd round. So far, my big concern in free agency is that we have not made any long-term moves. Better hit in draft. So it seems like there's a few questions in there. He thinks Pittman's going to go at the top end of the 2nd round. I'm assuming you mean beginning part of that 2nd round. I could see it. I don't think he's going to make it to our 3rd round pick. So I'm okay based on who's on the board at our number 48 pick. I'm okay with taking Pittman there, pending who else is on that board. Free agent moves, no long-term moves. I'm okay with it. Green Bean, I know you will agree with me. I think there's a poster over on the Jet Nation forums that calls free agency fraud agency. And I'm sure you've seen it posted around before, but it's absolutely true. Spending a ton of money in free agency historically for the Jets has not worked out.
Right.
And I'm okay with the route we went last year, maybe outside of Mosley. Like, I like Mosley, but I wasn't really thinking inside linebacker at the time. I'm okay with paying Bell the money to get him in here. We needed the first, a weapon for Sam Darnold first and foremost with a ton of cap. It's not affecting us from signing other players, so I'm fine with that sort of signing. This year, I'm very good with playing Moneyball. I like the approach Douglas has taken. I trust him, like Green Bean said. Douglas was an offensive lineman. He scouts offensive linemen. He's got at least 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen to his resume in that he scouted. So I trust him for sure. I'm okay with no long-term moves in free agency. Matt, how do you feel about those? And actually, I'll comment on the Jerry Jeudy over Becton thing before I start throwing it around. So Jerry Jeudy over Becton, I think would be a mistake. I like Jerry Jeudy. I like CeeDee Lamb. I like what's the other one? CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs. I like those 3, but I think offensive tackle needs to be the priority. There's so many good wide receivers. You're going to get a first-round talent in the second round with that number 48 pick. So I would pass on Jeudy. I would take Becton in a heartbeat. I'd be running up to the podium with his name in my hand. Matt, how do you feel about the question from Mumtaz?
So I think if any of the 4 offensive tackles are on the board at 11 and they take a wide receiver instead, I think that's a mistake. I think with how deep this class is, you should wait to the second round. Personally, I'm not as high on Pittman as you guys are. I think he's fine in the 3rd round, but I would not take him in the 2nd. I think there would be better receivers available in the 2nd round when the Jets are picking that I would prefer. Mm-hmm. In terms of free agency, I like Joe Douglas's approach to an extent. I agree that sometimes when you go over the top in free agency, it can burn you. I like that you can get out of these deals really easily after the first year, which is good. My biggest gripe, and I'm going to be beating a dead horse here, is the Robbie Anderson not matching that. That was the one thing that I had a real issue with. Everything else, I was like, okay, I can see a plan here. But I don't understand the not matching the price for Robbie Anderson. That's my one critique. Everything else I'm okay with so far.
David, how do you feel about Mumtaz's comment?
I would have to agree with Matt. I think if you pass up on an offensive tackle for a wide receiver, I wouldn't really complain about it, but I wouldn't be excited about it, but I wouldn't be furious about it either. Looking at a lot of these draft prospects, nothing's guaranteed in the draft because you never know. A guy like Pittman, he might fall in the 2nd round, of course. That's why I'm bringing up the trade scenarios where you might have to trade up and get that guy. And a lot of people are thinking draft Justin Jefferson in the 2nd round. We have the 15th pick in the 2nd round. I don't think he falls there. I think if you want to get a guy like him, you might want to trade up for him, or you might want to trade down for him. So you might have to work with your draft capital a little bit. So I can understand his comment a little bit, but that's just my take on it.
Green Bean, how are you feeling about Mumtaz's comment?
I'm good. I was just talking to 2613 on chat. He understands. But yeah, I think. Wait, is this the one about passing on Becton? Is that where we are?
So we're passing on Becton for Jeudy, Pittman going in the top part of the 2nd round, and no long-term moves in free agency by Douglas. So how do you feel about free agency, Pittman, and Jeudy?
Well, I think, just to be clear about Pittman, I do think he's my 3rd round receiver. He's my number 1 3rd round receiver. Me personally, I think there's going to be guys I like more in the 2nd round. But I do like Pittman a lot. Like I said, I think he's probably going to come out and be this year's McLaurin for the Redskins got last year. He's going to be in that kind of a mold. He's going to do well. But as far as passing on an offensive tackle, we've never seen a class of tackles like this. I mean, I can't remember one, and I've been watching for a long time, that this many guys that are actually looking like they may translate to the pros as dominant franchise left tackles. We've never seen anything like it. I think you take that opportunity to grab one. Wide receivers, on the other hand, every year there's at least a handful of wide receivers that are going to be awesome. Not to get too convoluted, so that I would not pass Becton for Jeudy unless he really liked Josh Jones or Ezra Cleveland in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, I happen to like Becton. I think 6'7", 370 pounds, that runs a five. What was it? A 505.
Faster than any of us.
Yeah, I mean,
Put it
faster
that
than
way.
me. Yeah, the
That is a
fastest 40
fast.
I ever ran was 5. So was that? So anyway, I think he's a rare talent. They're looking for athleticism at the left tackle. If you can get athleticism and monster in the same thing, in the same package, I think it's a rare opportunity. And as far as the free agency, I think he's doing it well. I agree with Matt. I wanted Robbie Anderson, dude. I thought that he could have gotten it done if he wanted to get it done. I think the delay was Robbie wanting to play here, quite frankly. I do think the Matt Rule allure is real. I think that connection was real, but the connection here was real as well. And I think that we just lowballed him, which is a positive, I guess, in the long term. But for that deal, but I'm thinking with my emotions there, I think a little bit more than maybe I would for other guys. But I think he's handling free agency as well. The fraud agency thing is also very, very real, man. How many years? I made a video day one of the offseason. I said, here we are with the best time of the year. We're offseason champions, the New York Jets. And it's like, because I have more fun in the offseason every year because our seasons suck. And this is the time we actually do good, that we do well. So I think it's nice that we're doing something different that looks like a longer term plan and actually looks like a plan rather than drafting a quarterback, then a defensive tackle, then giving 18 million to a middle linebacker. It's just like, what is the plan? What are we doing here? So I like it. I think he's doing well.
I think it makes a lot of sense. You brought up the whole, the free agency thing with Robbie. I think is probably my only gripe. I thought 2 years, $20 million was more than reasonable to get that done. I don't think we should have been outbid for that. I am excited for Perriman. I think Perriman could produce more than what we got out of Robbie. I think Robbie could have done better this year with the better offensive line and Sam being healthy and whatnot. So that would be my one gripe as well. I think 2613 Mike. Thank you for the $5 donation. I'll answer this before I even read it. Yes. What he's saying is, does it make you nuts when you see mock draft by so-called professionals having us drafting edge at 11 and D tackle in the second? I can tell you with 100% of my body that I would go on a midget punching rampage if we select a defensive tackle or an edge rusher at 11. I would be so furious. Matt, how do you feel? What would be your reaction if they come up to the podium and they say, Derek Brown for the New York Jets?
If it's Derek Brown, if it is Derek Brown, I will not make videos anymore because I just won't be able to do it. I can't continue to do it with the interior defensive lineman. Don't even tease me like that. No, but really, he brings up a great point because I have read some mock drafts where it has them going edge, and I know I'm not lying. Edge is a position of need, of course. But it's so much further down on the list than offensive line or wide receiver. You can't take a guy like Javon Kinlaw at 11 when you have the needs that you do at left tackle. It just makes zero sense. They're going either offensive line or wide receiver in round one. And I would bet with a fair amount of money that is going to be an offensive lineman. I think that's where they're going in round one.
David, how would you feel about selecting a tackle or an edge rusher in round one?
Do you remember when we were at the draft party last year and we saw Bad Dog and the Entertainer absolutely go on an absolute rampage?
They were throwing stuff around when they took Daniel Jones and there was just like papers flying around. You've got to be kidding me. I was surprised they didn't flip the desk. But yeah, that's basically how I think that would turn out.
Yeah, I would probably have that same reaction. I would throw my hat. I'll probably be flipping tables in my house, and before you know it, I'll probably have my neighbors calling the cops. Nah, not that far, but I'll be pretty pissed.
Greenbean, how would you feel if that situation played out?
Yeah, I thought Matt's face was hilarious. It was just, and that's how I feel. I feel like Matt's face was about a minute ago. It's just
I thought it was that.
What's that?
I thought I was the only one that noticed that.
Oh no, he was like, I mean, it's just, and that was the guy I was actually talking to when that was the question I was talking about a little bit, because I couldn't deny it. I'm like, oh my God, I'll fucking kill myself. But but it's like, has there ever been a team that has done the defensive tackle thing in the first round more than us? I mean, maybe Detroit, but but look who our competition is.
Yeah, it's a terrible team. You're looking at us. We've had Muhammad Wilkerson, Leonard Williams, Sheldon Richardson, Quentin Quinnen, and Quinnen Williams now. That's 5 in the last 10 years.
Leo.
Yeah, Leo.
You said Leonard? Oh, I didn't hear
I said Leonard, Quinnen Williams. You got Copels, Sheldon Richardson, and Muhammad Wilkerson. Those 5. All in the first round in the last 10, 11 drafts, whatever.
Years.
Yeah, it's
insane.
It's
and
really
only
not
one
good.
of them is still on the team.
All right, guys, I'm opening up the phone lines again, unless another chat question pops up. But,
Thanks, Matt.
Phone lines are open, so lines are rocking and rolling. If the Jets do go defense, I will become a Panthers fan, says JTB Vlogs. I love Teddy Bridgewater. I like Robbie Anderson. I like Christian McCaffrey. I have no problem with the Panthers.
Matt Rule, baby.
I like Matt Rule a lot. He should have been our coach.
I hate every NFL team.
If I had to pick my NFC team is the Saints. I love me some Reggie Bush. Love me some Drew Brees. I'm not the tallest guy in the room, so I am very high on Drew Brees. We got a caller coming in now.
Call from
Johnny.
Johnny, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's your question? And he's hung up. That's all right. No question for Johnny. He probably thought I wasn't going to answer. Whatever. All right. My NFC team is definitely the Saints. I love me some Jonathan Vilma. I love me some Demario Davis. I like Michael Thomas a lot. I think he is the best receiver in the NFL. Him and Hopkins would be 1 and 2 for me. I like the Panthers. The whole NFC South, outside of the Buccaneers now, and I don't know why I don't like the Buccaneers, but there's something about like a douchey TB12 kind of thing going on down there. Sorry, we got another caller on the line.
Liam.
Liam, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What is your question?
What's up, Brian? How are you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there. Not too bad. What about yourself?
I'm doing good. All right. My question is, so say all 4 tackles are gone, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And Okuda falls.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Yep, I got you. Is that
Jerry Jeudy?
Okay.
Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Jeff Okuda. Who are you taking?
Ooh, okay. So he brings up the potential situation of the 4 tackles going in the draft prior to the Jets pick and Okuda being there at 12. This is the cornerback from Ohio State, and then you have the receivers there. What do you do? For me, I'm taking the receiver all day. I think you have to surround Sam with talent. This is the one draft that I feel like it would be gross negligence for taking defense that high. Now, if you wanted to trade back and take either Christian Fulton or C.J. Henderson, one of those guys, maybe in like the early 20s, then I could probably get on board with that, or an edge rusher because you're picking up more pieces. But I think it's got to be an offensive weapon for Sam or an offensive lineman to protect him. Matt, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, if you take a defensive player before round 3, I'm going to be really upset. You have to surround your young quarterback with talent and make life easy for Sam Darnold. The New York Jets, I think, are the only team that drafted a quarterback in 2018 that hasn't made their life easier for that quarterback. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens completely revamped their offense for this kid. The Cleveland Browns, they went out and completely revamped their offense. Josh Allen, even though I can't stand him, the Buffalo Bills have done so much to surround Josh Allen with talent. And somehow the Jets are still sitting here with so many question marks on the offensive side of the ball. You have to go heavy offense in this draft, whether it's offensive line, wide receiver, double up on both positions. It's time to overcompensate and go heavy on the offense.
David, what about you? What do you feel about Okuda at 11 or defense in general?
Surround your quarterback with talent. Surround your quarterback with talent, and surround your quarterback with talent. Period. Any defensive player you take before even the 4th round, I think would be a ridiculous idea. Especially like you have a lot of offensive talent in this draft. It's a perfect opportunity to surround your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, with the growth and the continuity that he needs. No more of these stopgap veterans, and no more having to hit defensive home runs like we've had with all these defensive linemen. Take your pick at the receiver, surround your quarterback with young talent and continuity and let him grow with it. Because if we take a defensive player, I will have a bad dog reaction.
Green Bean, how you feeling about Okudah at 11?
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Okudah, but my problem with that, I mean, they just nailed it. They said it all, really. But the truth is that I might even like Bryce Hall as much as I like Okudah. I might like C.J. Henderson as much. I'm not taking nothing away from him, but I think you can get cornerback value if that's high on our list of things to acquire in this draft. You're going to get one of those guys, even Lamar Jackson. The cornerback. He's the biggest cornerback in the draft. I mean, there are cornerbacks you can get later too. We have to finally. This is his third year in the league, and we have not drafted a real lineman or talent for him to play with. It's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm with Dave. 4th round for defense.
See, I would be okay with 3rd
back to offense.
You could convince me on 3rd round defense here. If you go tackle round 1, wide receiver round 2. I'm open to taking an edge rusher in that first third pick, and then I like the idea of double dipping at wide receiver. So I could do tackle, wide receiver, edge, corner, wide receiver again. Like I would be cool with that. Like Antonio Gandy-Golden is someone I look for possibly in the 4th round, a big time guy that came from a small school that you sort of roll the dice on. I see the chat kind of talking about it. It looks like Green Bean was mentioned it up. Candy Golden. I like it. Oh yeah, I see it. I'll open up the phone lines again. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's got to go all offense to start. And then, definitely not until the 3rd round do you even consider going defense, in my opinion. Unless you're trading back with that 1st round pick. And now you might open the door for an edge rusher if all the tackles that you like are gone and you think there's going to be one at 48. But I don't think you can take Okudah at 11. That just would not be on my radar. No. David, how are you handling your quarantine while we wait for the next caller to come in?
Well, being that I'm stuck in online classes, I'm still pumping out content. I'm playing old Pokemon DS games, and I was playing my old Pokemon game before the panel.
What's your color of choice?
Color of choice?
Well, assuming it's an old Pokemon game, it's yellow, red, gold, silver.
Well, not that old.
What? Hold it. Yeah, wait a second. I played yellow and red and blue growing up. I played silver and gold. All right, we got a new caller on the line. So I'll get back to that.
Grandpa Mark.
Paul, what's up, brother? Welcome to the Talking Jets panel. What is your question?
Ryan, I got an interesting point. So I'm kind of like quarantining and listening to YouTube Todd McShay's mock draft.
Oh yeah,
and they're mentioning this guy Marlon Davidson for the 2nd round, a defensive, lineman. And I said to myself, let me look it up. So I look up his NFL comparison on NFL.com, and guess who he's compared to? Vinny Curry. I want your thoughts on that. Maybe that might be enticing in the 2nd round, since the last couple of weeks, Ryan, you've been talking about Vinny Curry. I mean, it's something where, I know we need wide receivers. I know we need, who knows what we're going to do, but I'm going to hang up. I want to listen to you and give me your thoughts on Marlon Davidson. Look it up on NFL.com compared to Vinny Curry. All right, bud.
Very cool. Awesome. I apologize. I cut you off a little bit at the end there. But yeah, so he's talking about Marlon Davidson, the defensive lineman from Auburn. I did pull it up on NFL.com just to kind of get an idea of who he is, because I did not know who he was. I didn't have him going in my 1st round at all. And I'll be honest, I have not been looking at defensive line at all. But I guess in McShay's mock draft, he has us taking him in the 2nd round, and his NFL comparison is Vinny Curry. So he's saying, since I've been high and mighty on Vinny Curry the last few weeks, would I consider Marlon Davidson? The answer is no. The reason being is I like Vinny Curry because I think he's going to be a little bit cheaper, and I think he can be a veteran leader in the locker room. Now, if there was a offensive lineman, sort of like how I like Jason Peters, where you can take him and have a stopgap for a year, I think him and Vinny Curry, for me, are one and the same at different positions. But I would say with Marlon Davidson, without watching his tape at all, he could be phenomenal. I just would not touch defense in the first 2 rounds. It's kind of my thinking. Matt, what about you?
No, I can't. There's really no player on the defensive side of the ball that I would be comfortable taking in the first 2 rounds, unfortunately.
Yeah, and honestly, we finished with a top 10 defense anyway, so with getting CJ Mosley back healthy, I don't think there's any reason for us to add pieces to the defense. I would be okay with falling down to like the 15th ranked defense if that means we have a top 15 ranked offense, I think.
Yeah.
David, how do you feel about potentially adding someone that could be like a Vinny Curry in round 2?
I'd rather just bring in Vinny Curry, period. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's the case, you want to bring in that veteran presence, bring in Vinny Curry. Just address it's offense. I'm tired of watching mediocre offense. Just give me a solid offense finally. Give me some offensive playmakers to make Adam Gase at least look somewhat decent. Just not have crazy eyes, run the worst offense in the league. Like, have some talent to compensate for it on offense. Like, come on.
So one of those things that we're talking about with adding offense, and David just hit on it, is you got to try and make Adam Gase look like the head coach of the future for the New York Jets. Ideally, we have Adam Gase on our team for the next few years because it means everything's working out. I do not want to add another new head coach and switch up systems on Sam Darnold. I want to get an accurate grade on Adam Gase this year because if he does not progress the offense, I think he is out of here. I think you get rid of him and you let Joe Douglas bring in their own head coach. And it's the worst case scenario for building a lot of talent around Sam is that you have a lot of talent for the next head coach too. Like, I'm okay with that. Green Bean, how do you feel about, someone like a Vinny Curry in the second round?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. We need offense. It's just like you said, we put together a collection of ragamuffins, third and fourth stringers last year, and we had literally the number one defense for a few weeks there. And I think we ended up number 3 in rushing defense and all that. Now, granted, the teams we played and all that, but we were able to do that while we had the 31st offense. Just like, I think I really liked how you said it, Ryan. It's like, I'd be willing to take the 15th ranked defense if we had the 15th ranked offense. I would, and that was like, that makes a ton of sense to me. Let's start to actually become an offensive team. And I also like the idea, this isn't just for Sam. It's to take away the excuses for Adam Gase. If he's going to be here, great. If he's successful, that is. But if not, let's give him a bunch of a really stout offensive line and some legit wide receivers, and so Sam can actually get to work. And if it's not progressing, man, beat it. Get out of here. Stop wasting all this time with guys while they have built-in excuses. So I just think taking guys from the defenses, on the defensive side of the ball, anywhere before the 3rd or 4th round. And even at that, I would still go cornerback. Defensive line, man, sick of it.
Edge is the only defensive line position that I'd be willing to address at any point in the first 4 rounds. And I'll hit on it again. The Adam Gase thing, the worst thing you could do is give this guy an excuse to say, like, oh, well, I had so many injuries this year. Oh, well, my quarterback had mono. Oh, well, we're already going to have a hard schedule. And like all this extra stuff that could potentially go on with a shortened training camp. Like, there are reasons to potentially give Gase a little bit more of a buffer, I guess. And I don't want to give him any more than he needs to get. I want to grade him this year. I want to understand the offense. If I see a top 20 ranked offense, I could roll the dice on Gase for year 3. I think I'd be okay with that progression, given some of the hurdles we might run into because of this whole virus thing going on. But yeah, no, I agree. I would not touch Marlon Davidson in the second round.
He shan't be a Jet.
No, definitely not. I'm going to phone call coming in already. Good stuff.
Call from
Austin.
Austin, what's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
First of all, just a 2-part question. If we don't get any of the top 4 tackles in the draft, do we take Trent Williams and then get Ngakwe after the draft in a trade?
Ooh, okay, good question. So he says, in the event that the 4 tackles are gone before we pick, do we go after Trent Williams? And then do we potentially go after Ngakwe after the draft? Now, for me, I don't want Trent Williams. I really don't. I've said it a lot. He's on the wrong end of 30. He's 32 years old by the time the season starts. He's declined the last 3 seasons that he's played in the NFL. So he started at I think it was a 93 on Pro Football Focus, then went down to an 83, then it's down to a 70. So he's already declining. Then he misses a year. So he's basically out of football for like 2 seasons at this point, or 2 full years, close to it. On top of that, he just had cancer. Like, he just had cancer. He failed a physical because he couldn't get his helmet on. Now I think that's probably him trying to just avoid being on the Redskins. I would not go after Trent Williams. You could talk me into it if the 4 tackles are gone. But I would choose to sign Jason Peters as, like, if the 4 tackles are gone, I'm on the phone with Jason Peters before the 11th pick, and I'm saying, hey, Peters, you here? Okay, good. You're signed in. We're taking CeeDee Lamb. We're taking Jerry Jeudy. We're taking Henry Ruggs, whatever it is. That would be my kind of take on that. Matt, how do you feel about Trent Williams? We'll circle back around for the Ndakwe question.
I would, if the 4 tackles are gone, I could get behind drafting Jerry Jeudy and trading a 3rd-round pick for Trent Williams. That's not my preferred option, but I can get behind the logic in that. I wouldn't give up a 2nd round for him, but if he's available for a 3rd-round pick, I think the value is there in that. And I would still double up. I think I'd go wide receiver in round 1 and round 2 then, and just go balls to the wall offense heavy. Yeah. Again, not my preferred plan, but I can get behind that if, under the circumstances that the 4 offensive tackles are gone, you can get Williams for a 3rd, then I think that's what I would do.
David, what about you?
I would have to agree with you, Ryan. If the Jets decide to go receiver at number 11 and all the 4 tackles are gone, I think Jason Peters at this point would be my plan B. I think trading a 3rd-round pick for Trent Williams would be my plan D. My plan C would be to bring back Kelvin Beachum. But unfortunately, I think that's just more unrealistic at this point because I don't think Beachum wants to come back. So I think if you bring in a guy like Jason Peters, who I would much rather – he may be older, but it's much better than trading a pick and giving a big contract to a guy who has not played a full season since 2013. He sat out for an entire year coming off cancer, and it would just be a complete question mark. I think we've hopefully learned our lesson from bringing in aging, declining offensive linemen who haven't really played for a whole year, i.e. Ryan Khalil. So I think Trent Williams would be my plan D at this point.
Greenbean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Matt put it well. It's like, I do not want Trent Williams, and I'll tell you why. One is he's 32 years old. 2 is that he has not played a full season since 2015. 3 is that he hasn't played a snap in 2 years. 4 is that he's a malcontent. 5 is that he's willing to pull the helmet thing, not to play, and to call it a medical issue. This guy's full of games. 5 or 6, wherever the hell I lost track of my my counting. What does he want? He wants $20 million. So all those reasons lead me to say, pound salt, buddy. Stay over there, suck a lemon. But if
go pound sand,
yeah, pound
kick,
salt.
kick rocks.
My mom would say. Pound sand, suck a lemon. Bring a lemon with you. But if they were to go for him and we're talking about our 2nd, 3rd round pick and all the 4 tackles were gone and we're going into the 3rd round and all we got was whatever that guy's, that lineman's name was, and we got, some cornerback and some defensive tackle, maybe plan D, plan E. Okay. That's how I see it. He's out there. You consider it. But he's nowhere near what I want to do. He's, like I said, Matt says it much neater than me. It's not my preferred plan. Let me say it like that.
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely on board with Matt's reasoning as well. I still think Peters is probably my first option. I would agree with David. Beachum is probably my second, if that's still an option, because it'll be a little bit cheaper and you don't have to give up a pick. The whole thing with Trent Williams is the guy's played at an elite level his entire career. You roll the dice for a 3rd round pick. Maybe you give him a prove-it deal for a year or 2 years or whatever it is, and maybe you get a Pro Bowl left tackle. Like, that's something that's intriguing to me, and I think I could consider it if the 4 tackles are gone. Now, circling back to the Ndakwe conversation, and I do want to hit on something that, where did I see it? Frank Haver mentioned it in the chat, actually. Yannick might be a swap of a 1st round plus our 2nd round pick. So that what he's talking about is something I saw earlier today, was if the Jets want Ndakwe, they give up their 11th pick, they take the Jaguars' 20 pick that they got from the Rams, so you fall back 9 picks, then you give up maybe your second round pick. So you still have a first round pick, but you get an elite level edge rusher, and you can possibly take a receiver at that number 20 pick. Now, the issue I have with that, I would consider it on draft day if the tackles are gone. If the tackles are gone, I'm okay giving up a second round pick for Ndakwe. If I have to swap firsts, maybe I do that. The issue I have is I want to say, was it Frank Clark got traded for like a second and a third, and then D Ford went for like
a second.
Was it a second? There was another guy that got traded for a late first. So it was like late first, then it was second, then it was third.
That was Frank Clark, late first.
Okay, yeah. So there's a mix of what could potentially happen. I would rather give up our second round pick, stay at 11, and give up a second round pick next year to get Ndakwe, or a third round pick, a second round pick next year and a third round pick this year or something like that. Like there's ways to maneuver around that. Falling back to 20, maybe I consider it if the four tackles are gone, but it's dicey for me because you're also paying him about $20 million. He wants 22. The high end on his franchise tag I think is 17, so figure he falls at the 19-20 million a year or something like that. And I would pay him for that. I think he's a young, good pass rusher. Matt, what do you think about Ndakwe, and what sort of situation could you see reasonably for the Jets possibly trying to acquire him?
I love the player. I think he's dominant. I watched back the tape on a Chuma Udoga video that I did, and he murdered Chuma Udoga, like repeatedly beat him into the ground on multiple occasions. I don't know if the Jets could put themselves in a position to give up a first or second round pick this year. Just because they have too many needs on the offensive side of the ball. I know that he would solve a decade-long issue on the defense in edge, but we were just talking about how they were a top 10 unit last year without their second best player in CJ Mosley. You're potentially getting Avery Williamson back as well if you want to keep him on the roster. I think you're better off keeping your first round pick at 11 and taking a tackle. I do believe one of the four will be there. There's no guarantee in that, but that's just how I feel on it. And then going wide receiver in the second. I don't think you could afford to trade one of your first picks in the first round or second round this year.
David, what about you?
So, question, is the trade offer that's being proposed basically the number 11 pick and her second round pick for Yannick and their first round pick?
Correct. Yep.
If we were more in a contender spot, I would. Being that we're trying to rebuild our offense, I agree with Matt. We're not exactly in a position to be giving away picks. Like, I love Yannick Ngakoue. I think he is a fantastic player. He's a young guy too, but you're going to pay out of your nose for your edge rusher, and you're giving away comp picks. These are the same kind of reasons why I wouldn't entertain trading for a guy like Darius Slay either, because I think a guy like Yannick Ngakoue is somebody you would trade for if you're that one player away from being a contender. And that's why, like, I could see teams like Seattle maybe trying to get him, or maybe even Philly for that matter. And also, Yannick is another defensive end. So it just makes me question if Greg Williams would be able to switch his defensive schemes to make Yannick fit a lot of the defensive schemes that Greg Williams would be planning. I think he would be phenomenal for a guy like Greg Williams to work with, but I think a guy like Yannick is a player that you should be pursuing if you're that one player away. And the Jets are not one player away.
Green Bean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think well said by everyone. I mean, he's such a great player. The idea of having him excites me.
I think he's 25 too. I'm pretty sure he's 25. Yeah. Like, he is young.
24, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but again, I mean, what were we just talking about? You know, the only difference between Ngakoue and somebody from the draft is that we already know what he could do, right? So it's more of a lock, it's more of a guarantee than it is, you know, the crapshoot of the draft itself. So, but it's still the same. It's still the same logic. It found another way in for the Jets to abandon the offense and go defense and give away all our capital to do it. Yeah, I love it. You know, it's another defensive lineman. It's what it is.
Oh yeah.
So,
the Jets, you know, their lineman.
Yeah.
What's that?
I agree. I think you got to stick with the offensive side of the ball. I love Ndakwe. I would give up a second. I would do that. I think falling back in the first is a little rich for me. Adam Sendick, thank you very much for the $2 donation. I don't see a question in there, but I appreciate the $2. Phone lines are open again, guys. If you want to call in and talk some Jets with us. David, you were talking about playing Pokemon right now. What are you playing? Which version of it?
I'm playing Pokemon Black. Oh, actually, I'm playing Pokemon White.
So I don't know any of the Pokemon that have come out in recent years. I know the original 151 plus maybe a few of the following generation. I always went with Charmander or Squirtle as my starter.
So you know the base, you know the basic region Pokemon. Is that it?
Oh yeah, for sure. We got another phone call on the line, so I got to cut you off, David.
So it's Grandpa
Dude,
Mark.
thank you so much for calling in. You are on the Talking Jets Live panel. What is your question?
Hey, Ryan, it's Jake again. I was the Odell Beckham question a couple weeks ago, so I'm
nice.
calling back again.
Glad to have you back. What's on your mind?
Man. So I've been reading up on a couple of these trade downs, and the one that intrigued me the most was going down to 18 with the Dolphins. They were going to pick Jordan Love. That's their decision, but it has us taking this offensive tackle from Houston, Josh Jones. And I've been reading up about him, and they said this guy could be one of the big sleeper tackles in the draft. So I just want to get your guys' take on it, so just let me know.
All right. So he had a question about trade downs, and I'm going to sort of fight him a little bit on it. But he said the one trade down that he saw was the Jets moving back down to 18 with the Dolphins. Dolphins are coming up to get Love at 11, and then the Jets would take Josh Jones, the tackle from Houston. Now, the first part of that, you never trade with a division rival, especially so they can go up and get their quarterback. I don't care what we're getting. I'm not allowing them to get their quarterback. That's sort of first and foremost. The Josh Jones thing, I really like a lot. So when I was doing my mock draft, I was hoping I could get him to fall a little further than I was able to. But I have him going, I think, in the top 20. I think I actually had him going to the Dolphins at 18, I think is what I wound up choosing. And this guy I want to say it was 12 or 1,300 pass blocking snaps. I think he's only allowed like 19 or 29 pressures over that time. It's phenomenal. When I was doing my research on him, I was like, this guy's legit. If Joe Douglas wants to take him at 11, I could get behind it, but I don't know. Becca's asking me what my Nintendo login is. I guess she's trying to play Animal Crossing. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat a little bit. No, I like Josh Jones, the player. I would trade back and get him, but I will not trade with the Dolphins. I will not give them their franchise quarterback. Matt, how are you feeling?
A couple things. First, it's Yannick Ngakoue's birthday today, by the way. He just turned 25 today.
Wow.
So you were spot on with the age 25 thing. Also, I would not trade with a division rival. I had a question on my channel where it was like, would you trade with the Patriots if they wanted to move up for a quarterback? And I couldn't do it. Whether it's the Pats, the Dolphins, the Bills, it just doesn't make sense. Now, another scenario, if you're saying an NFC team wants to move up and you trade back and you take Jones in the late teens, okay, yeah, I can get behind doing something like that, but I can't do it with a division rival.
David, what about you?
With a divisional rival, absolutely not. I hate the Miami Dolphins. But trading down scenarios, I would probably consider trading down with Denver, if possible, and take Henry Ruggs. Or I would trade down with Philly and look at a Justin Jefferson. And then I think if you do trade down with Philly and you get another second round pick, then you could probably package one of your second rounds in the third rounds and kind of maneuver a little bit. And if Joe Douglas would really work with trade scenarios, then you could double down on a receiver probably to the best of your ability.
Green Bean, what about you?
Well, did we talk about the actual compensation? Did he say what it was, what we get?
He didn't, no, but I would imagine if you're trading up to get a quarterback from 18, we're probably getting a second. I don't think we're getting that late first round pick, but I would say you have to give us that late first round pick in order for me to want to move back with a division rival at the least. I think they have a better shot at moving up to go get, a player from maybe Jacksonville at 9 or something than they do with us at 11.
So if they make it all the way to the 11th pick and they haven't gotten their quarterback.
Ooh, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you. So he said a second and 2 fifth-rounders was the compensation. You just mentioned it in the chat. So you get their 18th pick plus a second rounder and 2 fifths. Nope. I would not do it. Nope.
Never. Dude, if they make it to the 11th pick without getting their quarterback, no Tua, no Herbert, none of those guys, and they're going to reach back in to try to get Love, you can fleece them. Now, if that, and they know the deal, if you're coming to, to trade with a division rival, you're going to have to pay a tax. And if that were the case, taking next year's first, this year's second, all that kind of stuff, it's an opportunity for us too. Plus, Love ain't going to do it, man. I'm not a big Love fan. He get great combine, all that kind of stuff. I think he's a flash in the pan. I would let them do that, but I'd have to fleece him. I agree with never trade with a division rival, but just like Belichick did with the Bills, he knew what he was sending over there. He had some good years and stuff, but he sent an old, aged Drew Bledsoe to Buffalo, just like when they sent McNabb to Washington. You can do it if you're getting the better end of the deal and you feel confident that's the case. So that's when. Second and 2 fifths, no. But I wanted to say one more thing. The guy who sent you the money, Adam Sendick, he put his question up there. Just so
okay.
It's in the chat.
All right. I'll let you read it because I'm not sure where it is. Yep.
Well, hello. This is Adam Sendick, and my question before was supposed to be, can you discuss some second and third round offensive linemen we should be targeting? I would like to see more than one offensive lineman taken by round 3.
Ooh, okay. So I think Green Beans brought it up before with Ezra Cleveland in the second. Now, I don't know if he's actually going to fall that far because there's a lot of teams at the first half of that second round. Teams like maybe the Bengals, maybe the Dolphins or the Giants that could be looking offensive linemen. So I think you're going to have to get your linemen in that first round. I'm going to jump over to Pro Football Focus because I do have their premium service. So I was actually using that to grade some of their their draft guide. So let me see if I can pull up. I think I have their draft master. Maybe it's 2020 big board. That's what I'm looking for. All right. So by position, we'll hit. I'm going to trigger this as tackles as well as guards. I'm going to say I think we're fine on center right now. I like McGovern. He was a top 11 center in the league. Roll with him for the next 2-3 years. Kind of forget about it. In terms of guys that could potentially be there in the second or third, they have Netane Multi from Fresno State. That's a guard. Jonah Jackson is ranked 38th on the overall big board. They have, I don't know how much I trust Pro Football Focus on some of this stuff because they have Mekhi Becton down at 47th, up from 67, going up to 47th overall. But I don't trust that marking on that.
So some of these guys, these centers too, can play guard. They're versatile enough, and there's some tackles that are being projected at guard as well. So there are guys you see in like Solomon Kindley. Mm-hmm. He's going to be there in the late second, early third. He's a rock star, man. He's going to be great. Hennessy, Harris, Nick Harris, Matt Hennessy, those guys. Tyler Biadasz, he has had a free fall. I saw him in the 5th last night. I don't know what's happening with that poor guy, but I don't think it's real. But anyway, he'll be there in the second and third. There's quite a few. And the tackles, you got, Prince Tega Wanagoo, you got Matt Pert. These are good players. They're just not necessarily turnkey. They're not going to come in and be your starting left tackle or right tackle for that matter when you first come in. But these guys, you give them a year, 2 years, they're going to be great. They're going to be fine.
I'd say Lucas Nang, the guy from TCU, I put in my mock draft, I believe, end of the season. I think I had him in the 3rd or 4th round. Right now, so the last 3 years, he's a senior, he's a tackle. The last 3 years, he's graded out as the number 37 tackle in the country, the number 10 tackle in the country in 2018, and the number 44 tackle in the country overall. So when you think 2 tackles per team and there's 100 and whatever many tackles, that's actually not too bad. He's 6'7", 328 pounds, so he's a little bit lighter for 6'7".
His
they have
problem
him.
Has been they don't know about if he wants to really play football.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Matt and David, do you guys have anyone in the second or third round that you're kind of eyeing, maybe offensive lineman wise? Matt, I'll kick it to you first.
I just had a list and I took it down. I'm a dope. Come back to me in a second.
Okay, David, what are you thinking as far as potential offensive linemen in the second or third or fourth round, I guess?
I haven't put too much thought into that one yet, but if I had to pick one name, I would consider maybe a guy like Austin Jackson.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I figured he might be available for the second round. I don't think he's going to be there after our second round pick. I think the tackles are going to go higher than maybe some of them should be. Austin Jackson is a junior. The last 3 years, let's see, graded out. He only had 175 snaps in 2017, so I'm not going to say that grade. But the last 2 years graded out as the 59th and 75th overall tackles, playing 822 snaps in 2018 and 926 snaps in 2019. So Austin Jackson, obviously 6'6" from USC, played with Sam Darnold back in 2017. So there's just some sort of connection there. Would be the opposite end of Edoga. Yeah, I don't know. Based on how Sam had to run around that last year at USC, I know they were injured, but I would have a hard time probably maybe overloading too much on USC talent. Matt, you got your list back up?
Yes, I do. So Isaiah Wilson, the other tackle from Georgia, I think could be someone there. Trey Adams, Matt Pert, I know Green Bean mentioned, but he was somebody else who I had on my list for guys in the second or third round. I think one of those three guys. I think I would agree. I don't want to go center. I think that you could wait at this point since you brought in a guy like McGovern. So if you want to double up on offensive tackles and one of those three guys are on the board in the third round, I'd go for it.
I agree. All right, guys, I'm going to open up the phone lines again. We got about a half hour to kind of talk a little bit more. And David, what was your starting Pokemon that you would normally do? I got a Blastoise and a booster pack for like the pack of cards.
I was a water type kind of guy.
Well, you're a swimmer, so that makes sense. So what did you pick the water Pokemon for this past whatever generation it is?
The past generation. I haven't really played since Sun and Moon. I thought like that just ruined Pokemon completely.
I got you. All right, we got another caller on the line.
Diego,
what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind? Hello? Sorry, I'm hanging up on you. Maybe it was a wrong call. Maybe it was like a telemarketer. I would love to get a telemarketer on here.
That
would be great.
What we should do is I think if the Entertainer and Bad Dog are doing a stream, we should like call in and have like a like a New York like cross panel kind of thing. I don't know how it works. I got to figure out a way so you guys can hear these calls because it keeps coming back to me and I don't know how to make that happen. All right, we got another caller on the line.
Call from
Tom, what's up, dude? Welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind?
Actually, I think I'm a little behind right now watching you guys, but I just want to say I love what Joe Douglas is doing right now, and I know they have the guy from Indianapolis in their front office. I agree with what they do. They're trying to get quality players at a low price. The other thing I want to talk about is Woody Johnson is looking to change the name of the Jets to the New Jersey Jets in 2 years. Is that true?
I'll be honest, I did not know that. I'll give these guys a little bit of a fill-in. I haven't hung up on the caller yet, but he's talking about Woody Johnson potentially changing the name to the New Jersey Jets in the next 2 years. I don't buy that. I think there's too much of a media market with New York, and I think the ultimate goal is to get out of MetLife and build a stadium in New York. I think that's kind of where I see them going. So, no, I don't think that's true. That would be my guess on that.
I work at Kennedy Airport, and I see the Jets when they came from Hofstra. They went out to the West Coast. And I know I got friendly with a guy in the front office there, and he told me the Jets spent so much time and effort trying to get a West Side stadium. And when it fell through, they actually looked going back to Queens. They ran out of time, and that's why they hopped back in bed with the Giants. To me, I know you're a Jersey guy. Matt probably agrees with me right now, because he's an Islander fan and a Met fan, but the base is really Long Island, and I agree. To see them come back to Queens, and really just they had an opportunity to get the West Side Stadium. I know they got screwed over. Sheldon Silver did them in, and but that's where their fan base is, and they had an opportunity to really be their own team, and they really could have taken that New York and made it their own, and they dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, I completely agree, and thank you so much for the call. I'm going to cut you off before I wind up forgetting all these questions. But so he's talking about the stadium and how the majority of the Jets fan base is really out on Long Island and Staten Island, and he's like, I know Matt's going to agree with me on this. I'd love to see him come back out to Queens come back out to Queens near what is it, Citi Field and play out that way. I would be fine with that. I think eventually they'll wind up getting out of the MetLife deal and they'll try to build a stadium in New York. The last time, I believe it was James Dolan, because he owns Cablevision. I think he was the one that was pumping out ads as far as like, no, you cannot have it, you cannot have it, you cannot have it. This is terrible for the, you know, the city and the traffic and this and that. Yet he owns the biggest sporting arena, arguably in the world, with MSG. So I don't know. I think I like the Jets at MetLife right now because I'm in Jersey, but I do agree. I think they should be in New York. I would not change their name to the New Jersey Jets. Matt, what do you think?
If they move to Queens, that'd be phenomenal. It'd be like 15, 20 minutes away from me. I'd live for that. I think they're going to be in New Jersey with the Giants for a while. I don't know how much sense it makes to have two 80 to 100,000 seat stadiums within a 20-mile radius. I don't know how much use you're going to get out of it outside of just football. So I think the two teams are going to share a stadium for the foreseeable future.
David, what about you?
If they move to Queens, that would actually make it easier on the fact that I wouldn't have to drive out there. Being that, like, I went out to Citi Field for Met games before, especially when they played the Yankees, because, you know, Yankee fan here. That would be a lot easier on my end. Like, I would really just, all I would have to do is just get into the city and then take a train to the stadium, and it wouldn't be as difficult as opposed to dealing with all these circles and driving around and commuting around and stuff like that. So it would be good on my end, but they should be called the New York Jets. They should be playing in New York. I really hope they get out of Jersey sooner or later because MetLife is a complete, absolute dumpster fire. It looks like a giant air conditioner soup
It's
can.
a soup can. We've said it before. It's a soup can. It's a terrible. I hate it. I cannot stand.
This is what we spent $1.2 billion on, the most generic stadium in the NFL. Please get out of. Please, I can't wait till they get the hell out of MetLife. I can't wait.
Green Bean, what do you think about the whole Jersey Jets or stadium drama?
Well, I mean, David, I wouldn't count on it though. You know, the thing is that, I mean, I've only been to the stadium 3 times, right? Because I don't live up there anymore. But I come from the Jersey side of things. So I was always happy that they played on that side because I was 15, maybe 20 minutes away. I lived in Parsippany. So I lived just west. So driving into Giant Stadium or to Meadowlands, whatever, is nice and easy for me. I always hated going to Nassau Coliseum and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that it's realistic that it would make financial sense to the Johnsons to break away from having the opportunity to split 50-50 that arena and all the overhead and stuff. They literally split that with the Giants. Not every team gets that opportunity. They have it. Number 2, switching to the Jersey Jets or Giants for them. Why would they do that? New York is the number 1 market in the whole country. New Jersey's probably 99th. Or something ridiculous like that. It's a swamp. You know what I mean? Like, why name? Hey, I'm from Jersey. I get it. But,
yeah, no. I would
first Jersey. Come on.
Look, I like them being on the Jersey side. I will say this too, and it's something that we may not necessarily consider, but it is nice going to your job and being able to buy a nice house in Jersey as opposed to spending a ton of money out on Long Island or in the New York City area. Like, having a short commute going to Florham Park, going to MetLife, is probably more in the realm of what some of these players might come from. Like any of the beefy offensive linemen that come from the middle of the country, they're not going to want to be in New York City. They're not going to want to like play out there. Like maybe you get some of like the city guys that want to be in New York City, but by and large, I think MetLife and Florham Park specifically are really nice areas. I agree. It looks like a goddamn soup can. I think it's the ugliest looking stadium in the NFL. You look at what the Raiders are doing in Vegas. That stadium is beautiful. The LA stadium is beautiful. The $1 billion playpen in Dallas, which if they built that here would be like the $3 billion playpen. So that's the whole money thing. I watch Fixer Upper, and I'll see like, oh wow, they bought like a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom house for $250,000, and I'm like, shit, I can't get a 3-bedroom house for that over here. Like, damn it, that's way too much money. But so that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think that the revenue split's big. The Jets and Giants are businesses first and foremost. They're not going to spend double their food and beverage costs, double their whatever other stadium costs they wind up having to do. Vinny, thank you so much for the $2 donation. He says Cyndaquil was his Pokemon of choice in Pokemon Crystal. That was the fire type Pokemon. So I'm very much on the red, yellow, blue train with the original 151. So I'm not as versed in, David's realm of Pokemon. Green Bean, did you ever play any video games that were comparable to like maybe a Pokemon or something like that? Did they have video games back when you were a kid?
Yeah. You know what's funny when
His pong is like
we were talking about free agency before, and I almost brought up, but I just said yeah. Except, well, hey man, I remember when that came out, so that was a big deal. But I was going to talk about the first free agency ever. Do any of you guys remember that? Like the first when Freeman McNeil and some other guys argued for free agency in the first place?
That was the mid '90s, I think, right? When the first free agency happened.
We came out of the gate. And so we lit free agency up, man. We signed Ronnie Lott, Leonard Marshall. We were a Boomer Esiason. We were in the Reggie White sweepstakes. And so it was a big deal. But even from then, from day one of free agency, we took it over and never did anything with it. You know what I mean?
It's just always been our Achilles heel.
Joe Douglas is refreshing. So I'll say this. I was never a big video game guy. I did get into a game called Ultima on a computer game years and years ago. But the one I recently liked on PlayStation, I spent way too many hours and just sold my PlayStation because I couldn't stop myself, is Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront.
I've heard that's a lot of fun.
And I was dominant, man. I'd play with like a series of 8-year-olds, and we were rough, man. You didn't want to come in our neck of the woods.
See, I'm big on the online gaming, so like I haven't played a Pokemon in a while, but I've been playing Call of Duty Warzone like one's business. Just Battle Royale. Call of Duty in general is kind of my thing. I've tried a little bit, like I've wanted to get into like Madden and maybe do a little bit of Madden stuff on here, and I just can't stand Madden. So I wind up playing all the first person shooters. Oh, David, what's your game of choice?
Halo, Madden.
All right, you're muted. Sorry, I don't care. All right, Google Voice. Here we go. Let's get to the next caller. Sorry about that, David. I'll unmute you. I think you are unmuted now. I think it's only a little timer. All right, phone lines are open. We got about another 20 minutes. Next caller coming in right now.
Call from Jenny.
Jenny, what's up, dude? Welcome, or girl, I guess. What's up? I think you're probably one of the only girls that watches this channel. I think I have a 0.5 demographic of females. What is your question?
I know. What's going on?
Not too much. What's on your mind?
All right. So if a wide receiver is taken in the first and second round, which combinations of wide receivers would make you think playoffs? And if not playoffs, what combinations would you like to see the most?
Ooh, very good question, Jenny. Okay, so I think the girls are going to start asking better questions than the guys. So she says, if the Jets were to, say, double dip, like let's say the first 4 tackles are gone and the Jets are now double dipping at wide receiver, what 2 combinations of receivers would make you think playoffs? Remember, we are in a 7-team format now, so the Jets have a little bit better shot than they did last year. So I'll start this off. CeeDee Lamb is my number 1 guy. I love me some CeeDee Lamb. That's just how it's going to be. I would say in the second, and this is going to be the question I think we're all going to run into, is we don't know what's going to wind up being there for us in the second. If I had a guess, so let's say Crowder's our slot, Pittman's the speed guy, I would look for someone probably in the speed realm, kind of like Perriman, just in case he doesn't work out. God, that's a tough question. I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb, and then I'm going to go, or actually maybe if you are guaranteeing a double dip, maybe you go Jerry Jeudy in the first with the route running, and then you go with a bigger body guy like maybe a Claypool or something like that in the second. Matt, what do you think, double dipping receivers?
I am going Jerry Jeudy in round 1, exactly why you said. He is the route running god, and Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, I like Shenault a lot. I like him.
Yeah.
David, what about you?
I would go Jerry Jeudy, and then I would actually, you know what, this might be a little bold. I would actually do my trade scenario where I package my second and third round pick, trade up, and get T. Higgins.
See, I don't want T. Higgins. T. Higgins has already come out and said he doesn't know how to run a full route tree, and that scares me. It's like like a Sammy Watkins. But I would definitely, I'm with you. I would give up. Well, I don't know. So if we take the tackle at 11, I would be more apt to trade up for a receiver that I want in the second. But I'm okay with packaging like maybe that later third round pick and our second to move up and get a guy like a Justin Jefferson, a Mims, someone.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, that's what I could get behind. Green Bean, what about you?
If we were definitely going to get like 2 first-roundish wide receivers, if I knew that was going to happen, I would love a Ruggs, Chenault / Mims combo. Though, like that big, angry with that super crazy speed to go with Perriman and Crowder. I mean, I think we would cause issues, man.
Yeah, I don't know how you cover Perriman and Ruggs screaming up the sidelines.
Dude.
Like that's Joe Douglas has said it. What is it? It's
I got it.
You got the quote. What's the quote? You say I jack it up all the time.
Speed creates pressure. Pressure bursts pipes.
And that's just it. That's how you really like screw up a defense. Is you have those guys flying down the field. Guys, phone lines are open if you want to call in. I see Chris from Florida just tried calling in. Give another call back, brother. We got 18 minutes left on the panel. Yeah. So
it's a good time, man.
I love this panel. This is a lot of fun. I enjoy hearing from all the fans and just BS. And it'll be interesting to see what happens after the draft. We can talk about the draft picks and everything, but then when we get into the summer, what happens? Especially if there might not be any football coming through. All right, caller on the line.
Call from Jen.
I missed the name, but welcome to Talking Jets. What's on your mind? Ooh, and he hung up. All right.
Miss my name, will you?
It's all those cold feet. It's the unknown. I get unknown callers. Chris just tried calling in again, along with another number that's been trying. So, there we go. There's our boy Chris from Florida.
Call from Chris.
What's up, brother? Welcome to Talking Jets.
What's going on, Talking Jets? Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Get nation, people.
Yeah, Chris, I love it. I love it. What's on your mind?
Okay, so real quick question. Not Joe Douglas, Greg Williams. Do you guys feel like Greg Williams would prefer players still on free agency that have already been partially developed, or would he prefer players in the draft so he can develop them himself? And then who in the draft do you think he would prefer to have and, build to become top defensive players? There you go. Love you guys.
Ooh, good stuff. Okay, Chris. Thank you for the enthusiasm, as always. So he's saying for Greg Williams, are there players out there that he would prefer because they're already developed? Or do you think he would like to go in the draft and maybe develop some guys? I think he's probably not going to get too much of a chance because I really think those first 2 picks are going to be offense, between tackle and wide receiver. But I think there's guys that he would like bringing in, and I think if Greg Williams wanted Vinny Curry, I think Douglas would make that happen. I think maybe there's some hesitation from Douglas or some hesitation from Greg Williams as to why that maybe hasn't been a thing yet, or it's just the physicals in general. Teams can't test these guys. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. Do you think there's players out there right now that Greg Williams would like to bring in? I see guys talking about Dre Kirkpatrick, and I don't know. I would like to forget about Dre. Right there.
Ooh, well done.
Right? Yeah, see,
well done.
Snuck that in there. Green Bean,
I'm not too old for that.
No, absolutely not. What do you think, Green Bean?
Yeah, I think I think he set out to do what he said he was going to do. He at least did that. I think there's a few guys. I honestly think that he's toying around with some cornerbacks and one of these edge guys. That's what I see. I think he's not going to ignore the defense, even though he re-signed guys and then brought in Desir. But that other safety that we were going to sign from the Rams, that didn't work out. They weren't able to reach an agreement. Christian was his name, right? Marquise Christian, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
So that wasn't able to work out. Now, granted, he was actually more for Boyer than he was for Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very good special teams guy. But I could see, I know I've been harping on Prince Amukamara for since we started this. I don't know if they like him as much as I do, but I think him, maybe Dre Kirkpatrick now, and Logan Ryan. I think Logan Ryan's legit, but he wants no less than $10 million. I don't know if Douglas is going to do that, but I think he likes those guys. But I'm hoping he's for Peters. That's the guy. If we get one more, that's who I would like.
David, what about you?
Honestly, like I think Greg Williams is really going to attack the corner position. Being that he already brought in he brought back Brian Poole, he brought back Pierre Desir. I think Greg Williams is going to look at one more guy, somebody who's more number 2 caliber, because it looks like we might move forward with Pierre Desir to be our number 1 corner, which I really am not a fan of the low risk moves, but this is a potential sky high reward. So I agree with Green Bean. I could see him toying with the edge rushers too, but I can see him looking at the corners more.
Ooh, so David brought up the Pierre Desir, and I do like Pierre Desir. I actually have just finished editing all the graphics for Better or Worse on the cornerbacks. That's probably going to come out on Friday. I'm going to do my mock draft on Wednesday, tomorrow. But Matt, what are you thinking about the defensive side of the ball, Greg Williams, draft, free agent kind of thing?
So I think that the last 2 guys brought up a good point in the sense that corner is probably the position that they are going to look to add. I could definitely see them taking a swing on one of these guys who's got cut recently. I like Bless Austin. I think that he could be your second corner with Desir being your number 1 corner. I'm afraid of Bless's injury history, though. The guy can't stay on the field. So I think they're going to want to add at least one more veteran who is capable. I like Arthur Mollett for depth as well. But to get one more body in there, so if I had to bet on one more position, and if it was only one, it would be corner being added.
All right. Very interesting. That was a good question, Chris. Good stuff. Phone lines are open again. We got 13 minutes left in our panel. If you guys want to call in, ask us some questions. I see Van Jefferson being talked about in the chat. His father is our wide receivers coach, I believe. Where is Hines Ward our assistant wide receivers coach? Is that how that works? I thought he was in there on our wide receiver crew, but I haven't watched too much on Van Jefferson. It sounds like he's probably a 4th round pick at best. We got a caller on the line.
Call from
Vinny.
Vinny, what's up, brother? Thank you for the $2 donation earlier. What's on your mind?
Well, 2 things. One, my go-to game is World of Warships. It's a free-to-play online game where you battle in warships from pre-World War I to post-World War II.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's interesting.
I just get blown up because I just fly around in cruisers and I just get one shot by the guy in the Yamato.
Well, see, that's because you're playing free-to-play games. When you're playing the freemium games, you wind up, getting whacked by all the people that buy the stuff.
No, I bought my fair share of stuff, but I just wanted to talk about it's kind of weird, but like I was just watching the Jets Twitter feed when they did that stay home, stay strong thing. Honestly, if our team was as good as the social media department, we'd go undefeated.
Oh, and man, my favorite part about the social media department for the New York Jets is the what was it, the TikTok with the football coming out the girl's butt where she goes, or it hits her in the butt or whatever. I thought that was really funny. All right, go. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
But, I was thinking because this is a similar situation because when all is said and done, the New York metropolitan area is gonna be hit harder than any other region in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you think New York City sports, particularly the Jets, will respond? Do you think they will rally and give us a strong year, or do you think they will not?
Ooh, okay. So Vinny's question is more so about the pandemic that's going on and how the Jets and Giants are probably going to respond to this. The metropolitan area is going to get hit hard. There's speculation that a third to a half of all the people in New York City are going to wind up with this virus at some point. It's growing at an exponential rate. So what do we think is going to happen with the Jets season? Do we think they're going to rally behind the players? Do we think a season's going to happen right now? Like that's my biggest concern, is because of how densely populated we are right here in the tri-state area. I'm worried that we may not have football this year. And that it brings into question a lot of different things, like, do these contracts toll for a year? If there's no football, is there no college football? And if there's no college football, is there a draft next year? The NCAA already came out and said anyone that was playing spring sports is going to be eligible for another year of eligibility. If you play in the winter or prior, you're not going to be. So if you, go into next year, you could be talking about a draft class the following year that is absolutely loaded. Not the 2021, the 2022 if you had to wait. But that would be probably the worst case scenario. What do you guys think is going to happen, I guess, with major sports and just the Jets in general with this whole virus going on? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, obviously here in New York and the metro area, it's really tough, and it seems to be getting worse and worse every day. I feel like we are too far out to say for sure if there's going to be a season or not. If I had to just completely guess, I think that it's going to be shortened. I would expect training camp to start later than it usually does, and maybe you only play 2 preseason games, and then maybe it's like a 14-game season, something like that. I'd be very, very surprised if there's no football season at all, but I do expect it to be shorter.
So one thing, I'll before I kick it over to David, one thing that they were talking about, I think Green Bean, it might have been brought up on the Jet Nation forums, or I'm not sure where I saw it, but the idea of having a neutral field somewhere in the middle of nowhere, literally it could be in the middle of the country, they build 4 fields or 5 fields or whatever you need to play a Saturday, Sunday schedule, and you still have games without the fans, and you can at least televise it. So that way you get the TV deals, because for those of you that don't know, this is the last year of the TV contracts, so I think the NFL is going to want to try and capitalize as best they can. If that means not having fans or anyone at the games, that could be what winds up happening. They are pushing forward with the draft regardless. They are not having the Vegas portion of it. They're going to do it remotely in some capacity. So I think based on what we've seen from the NFL, they're going to try and do anything they can to continue to make that money, even if it's without fans there. But David, what do you think?
Well, actually, when you were talking about that, I got a notification earlier from Yahoo Sports. I think NFL might have reported on it earlier, and it said the NFL is determined to start the 2020 season on time without any contingency plans. That kind of shocks me to a sense because, like, for me, I've been trying to stay positive about this whole thing. Like, I've been, especially since, like, it's ridiculously tough here in New York City, especially. Like, this virus is just rapidly spreading around, and it's mind-boggling that we're even at this point. Like, it's really sad. But in regards to, like, a contingency plan with no contingency plan, like, you got to have a backup at this point, especially, like, I agree with Matt. Like, you're too far out right now to determine, like, what is going to happen in regards to the NFL season because for all you know, like, we could hit this peak within, like, a few weeks, and then we could start going downhill with this thing from there. So this whole thing is ridiculously unknown. No one's going to know what's going to happen with the season. No one's going to know what's going to happen with this virus, period. So in regards to whether or not there's going to be a season, as of right now, looks like the NFL might move forward with it for right now. Obviously, things could change over time. But I'm just shocked that they don't have a contingency plan with it.
Green Bean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, a couple of weeks ago, I was flying all around the country. I mean, I was in Palm Springs, California. I was down in Fort Myers and Tampa and all over the place. Miami, Washington, D.C. I was all over the country. I did not have a fear in the world. Yesterday, I got laid off. So it's like, I mean, this is happening. It's happening rapidly. I haven't been unemployed in 20-something years, wife and kids and the whole thing. So there's all that kind of stuff. I think what we expect to happen, it may be worse than that. Like the damage I think the damage is going to be people's willingness or reluctance to actually get together again. Like once we start seeing, like you said initially, Ryan, half of the people in New York City, we're talking millions of people getting this, and there's already been 3,000 deaths or something like that.
So I got I have the stats up right now. I'll actually post the link. I think I can post it in here without getting in trouble, but I'll post a link to a live stream that goes on that I check every day just to kind of see stuff. It's a YouTube channel called Roy Lab Stats. Right now, the U.S. has just under 200,000 cases with 3,900 deaths and another 3,600 in severe or critical condition. So to put that in perspective, the H1N1 virus back in 2009, I believe it was, had 59 million people infected and only 12,000 people died. So right now, if we were to hit that 59 million person, threshold, it's going to be very scary with the amount of people that could potentially be affected by this.
And I think so, the NFL might want to start the season on time. That's great. And I would love that because, even with no fans or whatever, I like it because look, even the last 2 hours, it's been nice to talk about this, and have that distraction and be able to laugh a little bit and all that. But I think that the real damage is going to be like, are people willing to go and sit next to each other again? I mean, I was at the supermarket earlier today. When you're at the, buying eggs, people are waiting 10 feet away from you. Where it used to be people just reached in and just grabbed right over you if you're in their way. Now everybody's staying away, and we're at the early stage of this. So I don't know. I think I like that the draft is going to happen. I would rather see empty stadium games, like you said, those neutral fields or whatever it is. I'd rather be able to. I don't need people to cheer to watch football. Half the time I watch it with the sound off anyway, because I can't stand most of the announcers. That's a whole different thing.
See, isn't that the reason we all started these football channels? Is because the announcers were so terrible and the sportscasters were garbage. So it's like, I could talk sports on the internet. Booger's terrible. Don't get me started on Booger. They almost had Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning turned him down, and I'm really bummed about it because I would have liked to have Peyton over Booger at this point. I think we got time for one more question. I don't want to end this on the virus because screw that. But I'll open up the phone lines. We got to keep it short, though. Real quick question, because there's only 3 minutes left, and we got to get out of here for 10 o'clock. So if someone does not call in the next minute or so, I'll just shut it down, and we'll talk our final talking points for the panel. Bum, bum. There we go. Okay, final caller of the night.
Call from
Big Green.
Big Green, what's up, brother? Thank you for calling in. What is your question? I want to get to it real fast.
All right. I was wondering if you guys could possibly do a mock draft real quick and throw a monkey wrench into it, saying the Giants go with a defensive player and the Skins go with Chase Young. How would that affect everybody's boards?
All right. So Big Green asks if we could do a mock draft real quick. So I'll take lead on this, and he's saying what would happen if the Giants went defense and Redskins go Chase Young, which is exactly what I think is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is you got Burrow at 1. Boom. 2, you have Chase Young to the Redskins. 3, I think, is a trade out. I think the Dolphins are going to move up. They're going to trade their number 26 pick to get up to number 3 to get Tua Tagovailoa. Number 4 is the Giants. And so the rationale for the trade up, it's 500-point swing. It would normally cost their second round pick, but I think because there's competition, they're going to have to give up that third first round pick. So that's that. Then you go to the Giants. I think they're taking Isaiah Simmons. I think they could go tackle, but I think Isaiah Simmons is the linebacker / safety from Clemson. He is absolutely phenomenal. He could be their Jamal Adams. So I think that's kind of where they're going to go there. At 5, you got Detroit. I have them going Okudah here with corner because I don't necessarily believe Trufant is going to be the be-all, end-all at corner for them. Number 6, you have the Chargers. I think they're going to go with Herbert or Love, one of the 2 quarterbacks. 7 is the Panthers. I have them taking Brown, the defensive tackle out of, is it Auburn? I think it's Auburn.
Spoiling your mock draft, man.
I know I'm screwing it up, but so this is where I'm kind of going.
Yeah,
and then
he's giving it all away.
I don't
need to watch him anymore.
I see. Yeah, that's just it. I'm just but the Jets have in my mock draft. The Jets have 2 first-round picks, so you got to watch anyway. And anyway, I'm the way I do my mock drafts. I put all my links in the description down below for the timestamps. So if guys from other teams want to see it, they could just skip right to it because they were going to do it anyway. Nice. But yeah, so I think, God, we're getting down to the last minute. I'm ending it there. I'm not going any further. I'm not giving away the mock drafts. But I do think Chase Young goes second. I do think the Giants wind up going with a defensive player. Whether I don't think it's going to be Okudah because they brought in Bradbury, but I think Isaiah Simmons could be there for the prime picking. All right, guys, that's going to be it for us tonight. We're going to do our little bit of a round the horn kind of ending here. Green Bean, any last words for the guys in the chat?
Yeah, let me just say real quick, since we did touch on this, I sincerely wish everybody okay. This was an unprecedented time. None of us know what's coming. None of us know, how to deal with this. Just try to listen, even if you're conspiratorial and a skeptic like myself. Try to just listen anyway, and we'll all get through this. That being said, I had a real good time. I really enjoyed the chat tonight. A lot of really good guys in there. So thanks for checking it out.
David, how you feeling? Any last words?
Well, I mean, this panel's always a great time, especially throughout this serious time right now. I mean, this is a really, really serious time throughout our entire globe. I myself am just trying to stay positive about the whole thing. I'm taking it one day at a time. Hopefully you guys do too. Stay positive that we hope that things can go back to normal. We can have football season the way that we should, with fans in the crowd, fans cheering on our favorite teams, and hope to God that this will all be okay. And I think it will all be okay very, very soon. So guys, stay positive, stay safe, and just stay clean. Wash your hands, take a shower, do whatever you need to do. Just keep yourself as safe as possible.
Matt, any last words?
Yeah, this is a really good distraction for me, and I know probably you guys too, as well as the chat. So I just wanted to say I enjoy doing this every single week with you guys, and look forward to doing it again next week.
Yeah, guys, that's going to be it for all of us. We're all on the same page here. We are one humankind, humanity first. Guys, make sure you take care of one another. Stay safe, stay inside, stay quarantined. We're going to keep pumping out Jets content for you guys. But that's it. Thanks for flying with us. This is Jets Talk signing off. We're going to try this JETS chant one more time. All right, ready? JETS! Oh, God, that's terrible. We got to work on that. It's because there's lag. We're out of here. We're out of here. Take it easy, guys.